What really happened in Rida and why it is destroyed? Well, if we look closely, the city in Piggy Intercity called Rida is in a very heavily bombed state. Who has been in Rida and why have they started a war to leave it in this state? Rida was a very normal city where it had its own residences, workplaces, and also military bases, or I think those were added when the war started. Rida was a city that was considerably bigger than Lucella, and it was clear that it had more residences. Adding that Rida was a place that is now too devastated, but due to the war that they had with the infected and possibly some fighting with another faction, for example the capital, the Valkyrie or the Liberators. On top of that, they also had something like a bunker, although I can't really tell the difference since it's more clearly a sewer system. Also that they had a building that was half built but was abandoned supposedly due to the infection. To understand how Rida ended up in this state, we have to go back to when the infection began, since the story starts 10 years later. Rida, as I said before, was a city that was much more bigger than Lucella because of all the details it had.
But how did it end up like this?
Possible that all the factions were in a war and then moved to Citadela, but I doubt it wasn't for that reason because I imagine it was because of the infection and the bandits. In Rida, after going into a war against someone or being bumped by the infected, but not just that, but there is a small detail that can be noticed. It may be the valkyries has been in Rida, possibly facing off against the Rida military. And on top of that, the subway is like a little shrine for the insolence where they're trying to revive Tio. However, it's not ruled out that the Valkyrie has been in Rida, having a war with the Rida's military, but could be an attempt to secure that location and establish themselves there due to the infection. Why would the Valkyrie want a new shelter when they already have 4 or 5 shelters throughout Ivalia? As we can see in Rida, there are different types of infected, such as normal, poisoned, and fast infected. My theory is that there might be some kind of laboratory in Rida where they make tests on the people who used to live there, just to try to find a cure. However, I'm not entirely sure since the cure was developed in Lucella, if I'm not mistaken. But that's not all. The bandits had also come to Rida to take refuge from the infection, as we can see a large number of them there. Furthermore, we can also see them fighting against the infected. Also, in the sewers you can see infected people like the fast infected. These could be people who die of malnutrition because the area might be filled with infected and no one could come to save them. And the poison could be used as test to create the cure, as I mentioned before, but they could also be failed attempts at creating the cure and will be released in Rida, also they could be in there or in another place. But the real question is what the Valkyrie group is doing in Rida and not at their refuge. Well, the Valkyrie will have come to Rida but to find a new place to settle, as they might be preparing for a war against the capital. But it could be that the military in Rida refused to let them settle there and end up in a war for not allowing them to be located there. But after that war ended up so destroyed that both sides had to evacuate Rida. But because they want to be located there, as I said before. As I mentioned before, they will be preparing for a war against the capital because it's possible the capital stole the cure and is trying to make more copies. But why Rida and not somewhere else? Perhaps they chose Rida, but because of its size being such a large city, they could position themselves there to protect it and attract more survivors, trying to get them to join the Valkyrie, but for the war that could soon begin. My conclusion will be that Rida ended up in a disaster because there could have been a war between the Valkyrie and the military of Rida, So that's how Rida ended up so disastrous, with thousands of infected of every type and bandits, and it's in an unlivable state because of being so much so destroyed, everything getting destroyed, and the constructions being stopped and not being continued, the residences being destroyed, and even abandoned, and many more things that has been discontinued in the whole Rida map. So that's why it is so discontinued, and it is in a whole type of disaster right now. So yeah, guys, that's my theories about what happened to Rida. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you remember, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to not miss more of my recent or new theories, and leave a like on the video if you like it too. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing and awesome day, guys. See you in the next one, and bye.